Hi, my name is Brook Chelmo. I am a senior strategist working on our product team here at SonicWall, and I'm here to speak with you about Discord, Generation Z's hacking university, and as also some may call it, the potential future of the darknet. So this presentation isn't exactly about stopping attacks from Discord, but on how Generation Z is forming and molding into our future defenders and attackers with Discord as a proof point, and how they are connecting, coding, working, and preparing for the future. I will prove that hacking on Discord is growing and provide tips on deflecting attacks from this platform and talk on how we can solve the need for people to attack based on or through employment. So my whole journey with this story started with me on a Saturday night finding that one of the tweets about a hacking crew that I put out there was retweeted by the actual crew I was talking about. And this was Hildecrypt. And it was a Russian ransomware crew. I can't get into the details on the specifics because of our agreement together. But essentially, I asked to interview them and get to know them. And it took me over 2 weeks to really write the first story and really start talking about this, because I had to reboot my entire understanding of how they worked and how their motivations operated, their methodology, because it was a different generation of attackers that I was used to dealing with. So with that being said, they introduced me to a whole new world of different people who are working on the Discord platform, a lot of them Generation Z attackers. I was introduced and didn't get a chance to talk to a Latvian crew that focused on emotet infections for South American banks. But in the time, I was able to speak with anonymous attackers as well as defenders. So the story also can be very good and wholesome as well. So the question for a lot of people is, what is Discord? Discord is a gaming chat channel which has a wonderful scripting engine built into it, which is designed to help moderators make life easier. You can use it to scrub out foul language, or pull people out of the chat, or redirect them to certain ways. You can redirect to people into different channels based on some of the things that they're doing. So the scripting engine behind Discord provides now also attackers and defenders powerful tools for hacking, both on the blue team and the red team side, or the black hat, white hat, apologies for the colors, on this equation. So that being said, what is on Discord is that, one, of course, I'm here to also be a fan of Discord as well as I'm being critical of them, is there are healthy communities there. There are bug bounties. There are people who are doing, quote unquote, white hat hacking on Discord. But of course, we also have DDoS servers, we have spam centers, cryptocurrency and shillbot bots, stock market shill bots. We have server IP address pinging servers. We have password breakers and CNC servers. So as I started getting deeper into how Generation Z is using Discord and other platforms like Telegram to hack and learn how to hack and improve themselves like a university of sorts, I had to kind of go back and recheck how people used to hack. And a lot of us are used to, a lot of us started with having that C++ manual or that Java manual on the shelf back there with maybe a library of floppy disks. These days, it's completely different. And of course, the younger generation has a lot of appreciation for how older generations learned how to do this and troubleshoot by themselves. The modern generation, the new ones that are coming right up, are connected. They have different chat, groups that they can work with for troubleshooting. They can meet people. They'll meet themselves on Discord, and then they'll take the chat and continue it over on Telegram. So there's no telemetry between the two different platforms for, in the case of criminal investigations. But cryptocurrency makes their life a lot easier because they can also now go out and buy those individual components that they need for building their code. Sometimes they can't, the prices are here on the screen, but there are times where they will struggle with building that bootlocker or building some other type of module within the code. And so they'll go out, shop for that, buy it. And by the way, all these modules and things I'm talking about come with customer support. Now, these people also engage in contests and things like Hack the Box to really improve their skills. But there comes to a point where you want to prove your skills on a different plane. And this is where hacking becomes attacking versus defending. And this is where the story gets a little dark. To try to prove or quantify to the people that I was giving this abstract to before I gave this presentation, they said, can you quantify it? Well, I can give some analogies and some stories here. If you wanted to compare, say, Coop is one of the most notorious strains of malware in 2010, roughly 10 years back. It took roughly 5 young men, roughly 9 to 12 months based on who you're talking to build Coop and become a scourge across networks across the world. Fast forward about 10 years later, a similar sized crew, I can't get into specifics, of a younger age, with the modern tools that are available to them, were able to make an equivalent of ransomware, that equivalent to SamSam ransomware, which is famous for locking up 5 of 13 departments in the city of Atlanta, less than 3 months. And the reason why it took them only 3 months to do this is that it could have been much faster. That's the scary thing about this. Hilda Kripp struggled with the bootlocker and the runner on the malware to make sure that it runs in memory of the system for more difficult detection for you and forensic investigation. And they wanted to do it themselves. So through Discord and through Telegram, they did their own troubleshooting with some people that they know. They're able to get the bootlocker and runner to work the way they wanted it to, and then set up Discord to be that Q&A center for them, and that kind of customer support center for them, where they can also then collect payments, give out keys back to those who were infected with the ransomware strain, then wash it into Dash, then send the money back to the people who are participating in the scam. With that being said, the purpose why they're using Discord is not only to connect with themselves, but allows for them to hack on the cheap. And this is essential when it comes to working with Generation Z, is that hacking on the cheap helps them because there are times where Discord may take an action and disable the server. Well, they can easily replicate their work on another server and start over again. So hacking on the cheap and also being anonymous are the 2 core components for Generation Z getting going into the attacking side of the equation. So 1, they're using Discord to ping servers for vulnerabilities and credentials 24 hours a day. Their Discord channels may be just working around the clock, pinging a range of IP addresses, pinging a range of email addresses with a known set of either passwords or guessing passwords. This is what they're doing. They're using Discord as their CDN as like a CNC server. They're using additional bulletproof CNC servers. Those can be a little bit more spendy. The Discord CDN, less reliability for them, but they're using that as well. They're using VPN and encryption to hide their intent as they're going from their homes back up to the servers where they're connecting to. They're spear phishing as well, but a lot of them feel that spear phishing is a very manual process, and some of them are outsourcing spear phishing to the professionals who are better at this, specifically if they are not native English speakers. There's a lot of attacks happening on non-standard ports. They're trying to find more unconventional ways to get into the organization. A lot of payments are then, of course, like taken from BTC, Bitcoin, and put into an altcoin like Dash or Monero, then often put back into Bitcoin, then put into PayPal, and then the money can be withdrawn from a source like that. I can get into some stories later. But ultimately, there's a lot of outsourcing, collaboration, troubleshooting, and buying of components that happen through Discord. And they're even buying ransomware strains and collecting the source code too. So these things are all happening. And these younger people, Generation Z, may have more money in the bank than a lot of folks would give them credit for. And it gives them the capability to do a lot of damage if they spend that money on building and buying more tools. So let's get into some of the people who are using Discord to learn, attack, and defend. And like I mentioned, this is a mixture of both attackers and defenders. Now, before I get into this part, because I will also speak about the Russian hacker, is that this is a generalized portfolio or profile, of people from my sample size. And it's not very huge. I didn't interview 2,000 people for this talk. So there are some generalizations that I'm making here. And not everyone will fit this. And if you feel that you are in this category and it doesn't fit you, I apologize for that. But based on the people that I interviewed with and spoke with, they come from all walks of life. The one common thread, though, that I found between my attackers, either being from an anonymous operation or being from, a group like Hildecrypt, or those I was meeting on Reddit, as well as Discord and Telegram, their common thread is that they're very pessimistic about obstacles and their future. The other thing, too, is that they've experienced some form of pain or loss or betrayal. It starts with anger and it turns into angst. In the case of some of them, his Bitcoin wallet contents were stolen by a friend that he trusted. Another one was bullied for having cheap shoes. And so he eventually tried to learn how to hack and attack people to get back at his high school bullies. And even after high school, just kept on doing it to corporations. Another one was in a serious relationship with a girl. The father of the daughter broke off the relationship, separated them. And as a revenge on the father, he went after the father's company and eventually was caught and spent a little time in jail for it. So these attackers start with something like that. And we'd like to say they kind of start on a knife's edge. And they all start as learners, attackers and defenders, but something is causing them to tip over the other side of that knife's blade. Now, again, with these attackers, they may also support hacktivist groups in a wide range of things, from attacking companies that they feel are not, being transparent about their issues, or doing something that they dislike, manipulating the stock market, for instance, or trying to dox pedophiles. So this happens too. But ultimately, all of them want to belong to a community. And I found this to be very true as I was knocking on doors, talking to people, and people say, okay, you're on that side of the fence. Do you want to, hack? Is there something you want to go get? You want to build a ransomware strain? So these are things that people are looking. They want to belong to a community. Now, that being said, speaking of community, we have the issue of the Russian hacker. And this can be a very different sort of the typical attacker because of years of separation and division. Not to get into the history, you can see my other stuff on this if you want to get into this. But in the year 1054, nearly 1,000 years ago, the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church split apart, giving both reasons for people on both sides of the map to point the finger at each other, thinking they're heretics and are unworthy to sit before the throne of God. With that being said, we're talking about nearly 1,000 years of war, cultural differences, political differences, royal intrigue, et cetera, causing the East and West to look at each other in a different light. And fast forward to World War II with Germany and the Soviet Union, as well as the United States in the Cold War afterwards, and even sanctions involving with the SolarWinds attack that were just announced at the date of this recording, will only further cement the difference in the divide between East and West. And this is one of the main motivators why Twig and the Hildecrypt crew would go after German and U.S. targets, because they felt, and again, it comes from the propaganda that they're digesting in Russia, that, that we are unfit for the blessings that we have in these nations. So again, not to defend them, but to explain them. There are issues on why they have no qualms at ransomwaring your devices, your endpoints, and then having you pay a premium to get those unlocked. Even if you don't pay, they don't care. They're causing damage. So again, this is the story with some of our Russian attackers. Now, keep in mind, I'm a big proponent of trying to get people on the red side of that map to be big participants of the IT world. And a lot of you who are from that portion of the world, the former Soviet Union, you are from a great source of people. And you may not feel this way, but there is a lot of anger. And this is what I'm finding from the interviews that I had within my small sample size. So again, if I have falsely portrayed you, I apologize. That's not the intent. Now, a lot of you may also be on the defender side of the story. And like I said, they come from all walks of life, even from Eastern Europe, former Soviet Union, China, and other places that us here in IT want to kind of demonize. With that being said, the difference between a defender and attacker in those beginning stages of learning and that curiosity on how hacking works and how attacking works and how defense works is that the people who fell to this side of the story are optimistic about opportunities in the future. And the reason why they are that way, from my experience, is they all have had a chance to be rewarded somehow, either through praise of their coworker, or not coworkers, of their the kids in their school, people who are mentoring them, people who have actually received bug bounties, even if they're very small, are enough to tip these people into the defender bucket where they want to help defend and protect people and use all that teenage energy and sometimes angst and frustration for the sake of good. Now, again, these people also will support hacktivist groups, and they also want to belong to a community and maintain many public communities for what we call the white hat hacking. Again, apologize for the color term here. So the question is, back to the story of Discord, is how much malware is actually on this. Now, my sources are the Discord Trust and Safety Transparency Report. Now, there have been 2 produced so far, and the third one is past due. And we have asked for we've supplied lots of inquiries to Discord to comment on this or give us data so we can help represent them better in terms of them responding to these issues. But it's been kind of silent. We've had some contact, and I expect that once this airs, I'll have a statement and maybe that new report comes out. But I'll keep my ears to the ground. In the first 3 quarters of 2019, it produced what is called the first half of 2019 report. There's 129,000 reports. You can see that hacks and cheats are at 16.8%. Now we're seeing spam at 11.3%, and malware was at 1.8%. Now fast forward to the next half, which is only 2 quarters of data, we see 235,000 reports. Because of the volume of reports coming up, a lot of these reports, by the way, they're coming from the defenders out there who are trying to stop the attackers because they get pulled into these hacking subgroups or servers. They'll play coy, and then they'll turn the tables on the attackers and report them on the Discord, where then they have to rebuild profiles and everything else. So, but the team has doubled since that time. They've broken out the cybercrime from hacks and cheats, which was in one category. Now that's at 5.2% of these reports. Spam rose to 12% and malware at 2.9%. And you can see here from the screen that even though there was a rise in overall reports, there was a rise over that for spam, malware, and hacks and crime, specifically for malware. And again, I had to play with some of the data here so it didn't skew too much, but you can see here what those percentage increases were in this case. So that being said, there's a lot of reports. People are trying to actively stop things from happening on Discord. But Discord seems to focus on 2 things. One is spam, and the other one is exploitive content. Spam is what hurts them because it takes up their bandwidth, spamming people, in servers and machines, etc. So they really want to cut that out for their cost management. I get that. Now, the exploitive content, I do not want to distract from that. This includes child sexual abuse imagery, and as a member of the IWF, SonicWall is a paying sponsor of the IWF to really help eliminate child sexual abuse imagery online. Big mission. We do not want to distract from that. However, we do see that responding to malware and cybercrime, it takes a far back seat to some of these other issues. Again, we don't want to take away from the good fight that they're doing to remove exploitive content from their network. But again, the verdict is that they're going to focus on what either hurts them or makes them look bad. And the statistics show that if someone reports cybercrime or malware, there's roughly only a 33% chance that Discord will actually take an action against the report, which furthermore causes a lot of the defenders to lose hope that there is a chance to win this battle. Now, when you take a look at the virus total map, of the Discord CDN, you're going to see it's used as a CNC server. There's APKs, executables, archives, etc., all there. And a lot of these are able to be accessed or downloaded without having an account. So again, the attackers are using Discord CDN like a CNC server. So let's cover a couple of the trends that we're seeing, with these Generation Z hackers today. So one is the big trend is obviously trying to move everything within memory-based execution. Fileless malware is going to be the big one that a lot of folks are focusing on, again, for the forensic, the ability to not find this through forensic analysis, the ability to try to evade detection. So once it lands into memory, it'll execute. So this is the goal, like fileless malware. It's what everyone's trying to do now with their current strains that they have. They employ common evasion tactics. These are not new to you. This is old news, but this is still very much a thing. My favorite used to be Cerber ransomware that used to run 8 different evasion tactics to get past sandboxing and AV, etc. So memory-based execution is considered to be like an evasion tactic here, but essentially, we're seeing this here. Again, these people are also largely looking at well-known and publicized CVEs and vulnerabilities to go after those common issues, but there are some of those who will actually go off very niche vulnerabilities as well. Now, one way to try to get past a lot of advanced malware scanners, like it's sandboxing, etc., is that they're trying to infect attachments that are rarely examined or scanned by those technologies, specifically by the job roles that they're targeting in their malware attacks. So, for example, VBox is one that Twig identified within Hildecrypt, because no one is scanning VBox files, and I'm targeting these IT admins and these executives who are using this file type, and to infect them and then work my way backwards. And then we're also seeing a lot of attacks these days on ports 5900 and 5901, which are the VNC ports, to enable attackers to move sideways across networks. Because in 2016, it was largely you try to spray and pray everybody. Locky ransomware, a good example of a ransomware strain, was locking up everybody and anybody, including grandmothers and people who had no idea what Bitcoin was or even how to obtain Bitcoin, just to unlock their grandchildren's photos that were saved on the computer. These days, we're seeing a lot more targeted attacks. We've seen an actual 42% drop in malware as an organization last year, and a large rise in new attacks through our real-time deep memory inspection engine here at SonicWall, showing that targeted attacks are far more real. And by seeing here that directory traversal has doubled over the year before, and is now the #1 intrusion kind of tactic that we're seeing being used in the year 2020, because we're trying to go after less number of targets and find juicier targets where we can spread sideways and infect more of the organization with our attack. So now I'm going to share with you kind of the application here and how we can stop attacks on the platform today. And of course, we're going to cover how we're going to stop attacks tomorrow in the future. So one, we need to stop attacks from Discord and Telegram. For if any reason, Discord is completely obliterated by, off the face of the earth, Telegram will take its place. But Discord has the majority of the focus right now of these attackers. So they'll operate off the Discord and usually communicate in Telegram. They're used both at the same time in many cases. So one is we need to block connections from the firewall and also any botnet protections. We need to treat Discord and Telegram like a CNC server and block access to it. Now, if you need to use Discord and Telegram for business for any reason, we recommend to only allow it through port 443, but only with application filters. Secondly, you need to also maybe consider running it in a VM if you need to use it, is another common advice that I get. But ultimately, there are better decisions and better options out there for team productivity out there that range from Microsoft Teams to others. Slack, I'm not going to recommend any right now, but Now, of course, I'm also calling on chat platforms like Discord and Telegram to better diagnose and seriously inspect the reports from users, namely when it comes to malware and hacking overall in general. But ultimately, I believe that all of us need to better understand the attacker, because that will also give us a way to stop attacks in the future. Now, in my time talking with anonymous attackers, the Hildecrypt story, which I'm known for, and I did a talk at RSA APJ on this one, is that I asked for advice. I said, okay, you've told me your story. What advice do you have for people like us who are trying to protect ourselves from you? And they're willing to give it. Roughly 98% of all the attacks that we're seeing out there can be stopped with proper hygiene. We come to these tech conferences to learn about the newest technology or what we could have bought that could have saved us from the last fire we had to put out. But ultimately, 98% of all these attacks can be stopped with proper hygiene. And part of that is using proper passwords. Our IT admins are using, they're not following those pieces of advice and those best practices. And Twig from the Hildecrypt story that I told you about, his favorite password he ever cracked was just 2 quotation marks. Yes, password crackers even check for those little, small, minuscule passwords as well. So test for firewall misconfiguration. This is a big one. Misconfigured firewalls, like putting a lock on backwards on a door. You need to train employees on cyber attacks. This is usually one of the best things you can do so that they don't launch an attack. If you're doing this, again, this is more of a controversial step, but consider using men in the middle inspection of encrypted traffic into networks for that inspection. Roughly 70% of all network connections are encrypted today. And a lot of those, malware, a lot of the malware is being pulled through encrypted traffic. And if your firewall or whatever you're using doesn't have the ability to inspect that traffic as it's going through, then you have to rely on your endpoint security to solve that. And I'll talk about that too. Also, email security needs to have an advanced malware detection module. Relying on static defenses and spam scrubbers is not the way that you want to go with email security. You should be using something like that at least since 2015 at a minimum. And also deploy sandboxing with memory-based analysis wherever you can, because all these different, even file-based fileless attacks are trying to launch into memory, and that's where the sandboxing component with memory-based analysis is really going to save you from a lot of these new attacks that we're seeing coming from Generation Z off the Discord platform, etc. Now, I'm also going to recommend heuristic anti-malware on endpoints. Now, this is the less controversial option when it comes to dealing with encrypted threats. Some of us don't want to use man-in-the-middle inspection because of privacy concerns, or because of the difficulty and how things break and all the exceptions you have to build into man-in-the-middle inspection. Heuristic anti-malware technology that we're seeing on endpoints is vital in this day and age, especially as people are working from home en masse, namely thanks to the pandemic. Of course, secondly on this page is to secure vulnerable ports. Mentioned this already. An interesting one is to write programs in a more secure language and then penetration test them. That was one of the most interesting points that I got out of talking with Twig and Hildecrypt, was that if they would break into an organization and they saw that they found programs that were coded in Java, they would think, we have lazy programmers and older people working here. So let me see if we can do some damage here. And of course, they also recommend hand in hand to hire more skilled and disciplined staff, because let's get away from the whole age and all the other different things that we try to label people with. It doesn't matter about one's age, it's about one's ability. Do you have the skills and do you have the discipline to follow best practices for security, specifically if you are building applications for the company? And that's, again, a very big one. And again, these are pieces of advice that actually come from attackers in my interviews. So now comes the big question, which is one of my favorite ways and favorite things to think about, is more the social side of it, is how can we stop attacks in the future? Now, the immediate actions for IT you can do now, which are not so future-based, is one, stick to security hygiene, including your passwords. Don't just force employees and your internal customers to do that. You need to block access to Discord and Telegram servers, and you need to restrict administrative rights from users. As much as I love having my administrative rights to my endpoint, Microsoft will tell you that 95% of all attacks can be stopped if you just restrict administrative rights from the users. Now, of course, for future actions, tomorrow, we need to support bug bounty programs. It doesn't have to be big. Okay, one defender that I mentioned or had his picture up on the screen, his name's David Colombo, started a company at 18 without going to college, just wants to protect people. He said, and he's a big proponent of bug bounty programs, and this is one of the reasons why he is a defender and not an attacker. As he instructed me, please tell people that if they can report to Red Bull that they have a vulnerability somewhere in their system, they will send you cases and cases of Red Bull. So it's these simple things. You don't have to send large six-figure payouts for bug bounty programs. You can do company swag or something that will benefit them, or just give them almost like a trophy to put on their wall to say, you know, I got this t-shirt or I got this thing from the company because I identified a vulnerability. Now, again, try to provide more than that. But if you want to start with something, start with company swag and work your way upwards to give someone something, a chance to do the right thing. We want to incentivize the right behavior. We're part of this world, and the attackers and defenders are part of the same ecosystem. And the more people we can become defenders, the less likely that we'll have to deal with the problems from the attackers. Again, write a more secure programming language, penetration test these things, handle your issues with transparency. I mentioned hacktivist efforts a lot because a lot of my time I am spending it with activists or hacktivists, namely anonymous attackers and the different operations that they have. No comments or opinions on what they're doing, but ultimately handle your issues with transparency. It's going to probably save you a lot of cases. We're seeing this now in the case of police situations with our ongoing climate today. I was actively interviewing people during the George Floyd protests that were happening in Minneapolis and across the United States and some parts of the other world too. And so handling things with transparency and working with the public is a very good way to avoid the brunt of some of these hacktivists. Secondly, reconsider your hiring requirements for Generation Z. And I'm going to get into that in just a couple of slides here. Now, again, like I mentioned, we need to incentivize the right behavior. We need to issue a bug bounty program that enables you to reward people for finding problems. On the right is a quote from one of the people I interviewed that said, you know, when I'm 13, 14 years old, I have all the energy in the world. I want to do something. And I'm so hungry to learn, much hungrier than you and me. But we can't give them jobs. You can't hire a 13-year-old, or can you? But the problem is that they need something. But you can send them cases of Red Bull. You can send them gifts. You can do things. You get them involved in doing the right thing and develop that muscle memory for doing the right thing. Experts, people, those who are older generations, help people, mentor people. And ultimately, if we give people employment opportunities, especially when they become of age, we give them an opportunity to do the right thing. We give them a chance to lose something if they do the wrong thing. Incentivize the right behavior. Now, that being said, we're looking at the future workforce now. Generation Z, I have a lot of hope for these people, men and women, all across the board, all across the world. Generation Z has much more hope for this world than my own generation. I truly believe it. We need to consider hiring people of a younger age who may not have a post-high school education. Our attackers out there are not optimistic about going to college. Our defenders, however, will look for certifications. And in my interviews with them, they're asking, what can I do to get a job in your company when I'm old enough? Okay, so look for certifications and skill sets. Look for women getting involved in technical roles. Okay, they're looking at things that more women want to see more women in office, and they want to see them more in the data center. So look to hiring women as well for technical roles. They're women who are out there actively trying to become hackers and defenders. So look at what's going on there. There's a big wave of women coming into these roles. They're also going to be more sensitive about the human link to climate change. So if you're a hardware vendor, look at how look for greener solutions. And consider hiring from the former Soviet Union. I am originally from Western Europe, you could say, and I have no skin in the game here. But I really strongly believe if we give folks from the former Soviet Union the benefit of the doubt and give them the opportunity to be hired by Western companies, we can really solve the need for people to hack. Because a lot of these people, they have to work a state salary and it's not enough to support the way they want to live. So they will do things on the side, convert the, like ransomware, convert the coin, and then go get the money from a local bodega to then go buy groceries. So again, in a country where doctors make less than $2,000 a month, you could take the same amount of money to hire a C++ programmer, web developers. Now, again, in my research on this, I'm finding that one of the top Google search results about Russians is, can you trust them, especially when it comes to tech? So if you're having troubles with trust just yet, never share the full code base online, host with limited access. Use AWS Team Foundation Server if you're running on that. Always use project management software when you can, and always ask for the raw code at the end of the project. And again, this is when you're talking about dealing with contractors. But again, the former Soviet Union is a great place to hire. It has a lot of opportunity. So not just Generation Z coming up as well. So that being said, I strongly believe that hiring is a way to try to deter attackers and ultimately make it for a healthier ecosystem. So again, I'd like to thank you for your time today. My name is B.R. Chelmo, or Brook Chelmo. You're welcome to chat with me on Twitter afterwards, and of course in the Q&A session. So again, thank you very much.